Hello, I'm Matt and welcome to Badger Workshop. So this is my Draper 200mm cast iron table saw. Now it's basically the same saw as a few other models. You've got the Chapac model, which has a slightly different stand. You've got the Charnwood model that's got a different stand, and they've actually upgraded the mitre fence. And there's the Axminster Hobby one. That's basically the same. I think the fence is different and you can buy it separately. So you can buy just the cast iron saw and then you can buy the extension wings, sliding carriages and stand all separately. And they're just bringing out a new one, which they're, instead of calling it Hobby, they're calling it Craft, which I have seen, and it basically is a facelift of this saw. Anyway, all those are based on the original Kitty saw. So there's definitely a few options and they're basically all the same. So I thought I'd tell you things I like and things I don't like about it. So I'll start with how I've got it set up. It's got two side wings and I've got them both to one side, and then I had the sliding carriage on this side. But I found it didn't really work for me, and I did a video building a stand for it. I talk about this and how I prefer to have a crosscut sled and a mitre sled, so I took this off. So I might reconfigure the saw so I've got one side wing either side. So thing I like about it is a cast iron top. It's nice and flat, nice and solid, and of course it's magnetic, so you can use magnetic jigs with it. Another thing that's great, and probably the reason I went for this, is how quiet it is. It's got an induction motor or a brushless motor that runs really nice and quietly. So let's plug it in and have it running and you'll get an idea. Okay, so I've got the mic set up exactly where it was before and we'll run the saw. And I can keep talking at the same volume and it's just a nice low rumble. Obviously when you feed wood through, it is noisier, but you can buy quieter cutting blades. But I'm not going to disturb any neighbours with this. And actually, my dust extractor is louder than the saw. Okay, whilst I'm down here, I'll talk about a couple of other points. So the first was the stand. It came with a normal kind of leg stand, machine stand you get. I never liked those. I think they were an inefficient use of space. And I made this rolling cart that means I can utilise some storage, but it also made the saw about 10 centimetres higher, which really helped my back. But I guess I understand why saw manufacturers do it. You can't make a saw that's going to be the same height for everyone, so I'm always going to make a new stand. But the other thing while I'm down here to show you is the dust collection. So the saw blade has a shroud, but it's open to one side. And I think this is a common thing with most cabinet saws. So I did this about 4 weeks ago. Last time I took this off and cleaned it out. So let's have a look. Yeah. There's definitely some sawdust build up in there, quite a bit in fact. So the dust collection is not amazing on this because the shroud is open at one side, and then from the shroud it goes for a flexible pipe that curves around, so you've got two right angles and then to the port at the back. As when I had my Bosch, more of a job site table saw, the shroud around the blade went up to the top both sides, and then the outlet was just directly at the back instead of going around all these corners. But I think this seems to be a problem with cabinet saws. Even the more expensive, over £1,000 Axminster one, I read the reviews and they're the same. So if you want a cabinet saw, this is kind of a problem, unless you're going to buy a saw stop. So I have this dust hood that I actually had built into a mitre saw station. So I'm thinking of building a new stand or modifying this stand so this fits under the saw I block up all the existing ports and it just has the one port at the bottom, so all the sawdust that would naturally want to fall down just gets funneled down, and I think that will work better. So I might do a video on doing this upgrade. It comes with a mitre gauge, and most mitre gauges that come with saws are pretty useless. This one isn't bad at all. I'm not saying it's amazing, but for one that comes with the saw, it's okay. So I'm putting that down as a good point, but also mitre slots are negative. They're non-standard. I think the standard is, I forgot what it is in a fraction of an inch, but it's about 19mm. Anyway, these are more like 15.5mm. So you can't buy runners for it or mitre gauges, and I don't know why manufacturers do it. Then we should all agree on standardised sizes for dust ports and for mitre slots. Plus point is definitely the table size. These extension wings are super handy. I'm not going to give you the specs because the specs on these saws are all available online. The fence is pretty good. It's a very basic, just a screw, but it really does all right. I have the Axminster aftermarket fence, which is about £100 fence. So my intention was to install it on this, but I've had this going for 3 months now, and the fence that comes with it has never annoyed me enough that I'd spend the time to change it. So it was better than I thought. Right, things that aren't so good about this saw. Well, we've talked about the dust collection. The power. It's not the most powerful saw, and I think this is a problem with the quieter induction motors. To get the same power, they need to be quite a lot bigger. And it really struggled at first, this saw, for me. And then I changed the blade. I think it had a 48 tooth blade, which I thought, oh, 48 tooth, that's a good combination blade. But I'm used to having a 10-inch saw. So going down to an 8-inch saw, 48 tooth is actually a pretty high tooth count. So I've changed it to Freud, I think it's a 16 tooth rip blade, and that does a much better job. But still, if you're trying to rip material at maximum height of the blade, you're going to need 2 passes. So my old Bosch, it had some power to it. You could run through hardwood pretty much at full height. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but it could do it. This, no, you have to take a few passes. So the blade that comes with it, yeah, pretty much useless. But that's a good thing about having an 8-inch saw, I guess, is the blades are pretty cheap. But then a negative would be, because 8-inch table saws aren't as common, the range of blades you can get isn't as good. The riving knife that comes with it goes higher than the blade, and it has a dust guard or a guard on the blade which you can connect a dust port to. But if you need to cut through thick material in 2 passes, you can't have the riving knife higher than the blade. So I did a video a few weeks ago about making a new riving knife that's lower than the blade. So I understand why they have it higher. It'd be nice if they gave you 2 riving knives to choose, but okay, I'm being a bit picky there. So my conclusion for this saw, I'm not sure it's the saw for me. It was a stupid purchase, really. I'm in the workshop every day and I'm using this saw pretty much every day. And it's sold as a hobby saw, a high-end hobby saw, but a hobby saw. And so all these shortcomings that I've listed, when you're using it every day, get quite annoying. As I empty the dust out of it once a month. But if you're using the workshop every weekend, and you're probably not in the workshop every weekend as a hobbyist, and even if you are, you're not using the table saw all the time, you might have to empty the cabinet out every 6 weeks or something. So it's not so annoying. The fact that you have to make thick material, make it in 2 passes, I would probably rather do it in 2 passes and have a quieter saw than do it in 1 pass and have a very loud saw. So I think if you're a hobbyist, using this saw, just at weekends, it's probably quite a good saw. If you're using it every day, I probably shouldn't have been trying to be cheap and buy this. So I hope this was helpful to some of you. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more videos.